In medieval times, survival was never guaranteed, especially for those who faced the cold months without the support of a family or a household. A single man living in a small village or a remote settlement had to rely on skill, preparation, and sheer resilience to make it through the freezing dark season. Winter was not just a drop in temperature, it was a test of strategy, discipline, and the ability to read nature's signals long before the snow touched the ground. This story explores how single men faced the challenges of winter during an era when warmth, food, and safety had to be earned through hard work and careful planning. Most single men began preparing months before the first frost appeared. Preparation often started at the end of summer, when the forests were still green and the fields full of life. They collected firewood relentlessly, because wood was the foundation of survival. Without enough wood, even the strongest man could freeze. They chopped logs, split them into smaller pieces, and stacked them in covered piles so rain or snow wouldn't rot them. Sometimes they spent entire weeks doing nothing but chopping, dragging, and storing fuel. A single man knew that every log stored in autumn could mean the difference between comfort and disaster in winter. Food was another critical challenge. A man living alone couldn't rely on a large family to hunt, gather, or farm with him, so he had to plan carefully. Many single men kept small gardens on the edge of their homes during warmer months. They grew hardy foods that lasted long after harvest, like turnips, onions, leeks, and cabbages. These vegetables could survive cooler temperatures and could be stored in earthen pits or cellars. Meat was harder to secure, but not impossible. Some single men raised a few chickens, which provided eggs, or a goat for milk. Others relied on simple hunting skills, trapping rabbits, catching fish before the rivers froze, or going into the woods with a bow in hopes of finding a deer. However, hunting alone was risky. A man had to be careful not to wander too deep into forests known for wolves or bandits. Still, single men found ways to gather enough food to make dried meats, smoked fish, or jerky they would store for months. Drying and preserving food were essential skills. A lone man who didn't know how to dry meat, smoke fish, or create simple salted stores could face starvation during the coldest months. Preservation not only required knowledge, but discipline, because eating too much too early in the season could ruin all planning. It wasn't uncommon for a single man to measure his food carefully, dividing it by week or by month, making sure he would never run short before spring returned. Shelter played one of the biggest roles in winter survival. Medieval homes were not like modern houses. They were vulnerable to wind, snow, and cold air slipping through every crack. A single man often lived in a small wooden hut or a simple one-room cottage. Before winter arrived, he sealed gaps with moss, straw, clay, or bundles of dried grass. Even a minor hole in the wall could allow freezing wine to fill the room. Roofs had to be checked for weak spots, because snow could gather quickly and collapse anything poorly supported. Some single men reinforced their roofs with extra beams or added layers of thatching to keep out the moisture. A dry roof was a warm roof, and a warm roof helped keep a man alive. Inside their homes, single men organized their living space with purpose. The sleeping area was positioned close to the fire, often just a few feet away from the hearth. Beds were made from straw, wool, or furs collected from hunting trips. A single man might spend an entire day gathering pine branches or dried leaves just to create a thicker, warmer bedding layer. The closer he slept to the fire without risking danger, the better his chances of staying warm until morning. Many homes had only one fire that burned constantly, and tending that fire became a daily and nightly ritual. A fire that went out in the middle of the night could mean hours of shivering and struggling to reignite it with frozen fingers. Clothing was another survival tool. A single man owned fewer clothes than someone with family support, so he had to take great care of what he had. Wool tunics, cloaks, and thick leggings were common winter wear. Wool stayed warm even when slightly damp, making it one of the most valuable materials of the time. Furs were treasured as well. A single man might trade for them, hunt for them, or inherit them. He repaired tears and holes long before winter started, because even a small rip could let in enough cold air to become dangerous. Gloves, hats, and scarves were not luxuries, they were essential to protect hands and faces during the coldest moments. The daily rhythm of winter for a single medieval man was slow but never idle. Each morning, he woke up early to tend to the fire, check on stored food, and make sure his shelter hadn't been damaged overnight by wind or animals. He might break ice to gather water, shovel snow away from the entrance, or inspect traps set the night before. Survival required constant attention to detail. One forgotten task could quickly turn into a major problem. If the firewood pile became wet, he had to fix it. If animals disturbed the food storage pit, he had to protect it better. Winter rewarded only those who remained alert. Many single men relied on their skills in craftsmanship during these harsh months. Some repaired tools, mended clothing, or created simple items they could trade in the village if they needed more supplies. Carving wood, making simple furniture, or fixing metal tools helped pass long hours and provided useful items for survival. Productivity was not just about staying busy. It was a crucial strategy for preparing for emergencies. If a tool broke in the middle of winter and he had no replacement, he could face serious danger. Social connections mattered as well. Even though a man lived alone, he was rarely completely isolated. Villages functioned as networks of mutual support. A single man who built good relationships with neighbors often found help when circumstances became difficult. People in medieval communities looked out for one another, especially when the weather turned cruel. A man might exchange firewood for bread, help repair a neighbor's roof in exchange for warm stew, or offer his skills as a hunter in return for sharing preserved food. These small acts of cooperation helped everyone survive. A single man understood that being part of the village, even in a small way, added a layer of security no amount of firewood could replace. Despite their independence, many single men relied heavily on personal resilience. Winter brought long nights with little sunlight, and the psychological strain was real. They had to find ways to stay mentally strong. Some relied on routine, keeping strict schedules to avoid falling into despair or laziness. Others found comfort in simple activities like carving, singing old songs, telling stories to themselves, or carving runes and symbols into wood. Maintaining morale was just as important as maintaining shelter. Many single men also relied on carefully reading nature. They watched the behavior of birds, animals, and the timing of the first frost. Understanding these signals allowed them to predict how severe the winter might be. When the season looked harsher than usual, they gathered even more supplies, set extra traps, or prepared thicker clothing. Their survival often depended on their ability to interpret the environment with the wisdom passed down from elders or learned through hard experience. Winter storms tested every skill a single man had. Heavy snow could trap him indoors for days, making it impossible to hunt or gather water. High winds could blow down trees, damage homes, or scatter food stores. During these moments, preparation was the only shield. A well-sealed house, a solid firewood pile, and tightly preserved food allowed a man to sit through days of harsh weather without panic. When storms finally cleared, he quickly went outside to assess damage, repair anything broken, and restore his supplies. Every storm created new challenges, but surviving them boosted a man's confidence and strengthened his belief that he could endure the rest of the season. Cooking simple, warm meals was another key to staying strong. Men often boiled stews made from root vegetables, dried meat, herbs, and grains.